My sister called my child a damaged mistake and told her that she is not real family, so I gave her a wake-up call by cutting off funds for her wedding. I am the eldest of 5 siblings, and I've taken on the role of the family caretaker for as long as I can remember. I helped our parents until their passing, and, frankly, it's exhausting. So as the oldest, I just sort of became the de facto parent. I don't mind as I love my siblings, and it's kind of my thing to big sister to friends and family a lot. I'm sort of ship's counselor, and I financially help out my family. I don't mind, as I work in tech, have a side gig doing art, and inherited land and money from mom and dad, all that to say it's no real loss. A few years ago, I adopted my cousin's Charlie child, who I will just use the nickname Decker after my cousin went to prison for murdering Decker's mother in an alcohol and drug-fueled rage, which is too long a story to add here. It was a chaotic year of mourning, paperwork, and court hearings, but the adoption was finalized when the Decker was 5. Now, she's a happy, healthy 13-year-old who calls me mom. She's in therapy and has been since I legally could send her as she witnessed her mother's death, and I couldn't be prouder of how resilient she is. She's my girl, my rock star, my whole heart, and I call her that, literally my heart. Fast forward to my sister, Clara, upcoming wedding. I was thrilled for her at first, and she asked me to be Mo. I cried in joy and offered for my wife Honey and I to pay for it. But during a bachelorette dinner I set up, she made a hurtful comment about my daughter, calling her a mistake and saying I shouldn't have taken her in. I stared at her and asked her what she meant, and she said it wasn't like I was supposed to even have kids, as I am married to another woman, then said no hate or anything and laughed, but then she doubled down that Decker is likely damaged and a handful. Guys, Decker is the sweetest child alive. I mean, she is a teen, so yes, sometimes she can get challenging or rebellious here or there, but when I say she is my whole heart, I mean it. She made us a family and made our house a home. She smiles easily, cries openly, and has the emotional intelligence I wish I had myself. She always asks how are you doing, and she really means it, willing to listen to people. But she's a damaged mistake. I felt like a character in a dark, twisted episode of a sci-fi show. Defending my choice to adopt felt like fighting the Borg, like I just wouldn't assimilate. I didn't laugh it off with my sister and her friends. I just stared at her in pure disbelief. I think she knew I was hurt because she quickly changed the subject. I said I better get home, paid for everything in 3 more rounds, and went home to my family. My sister came over the next day to yell at me for leaving and cutting them off after the 3 rounds I paid for. She said I owe her a do-over for ruining the whole weekend because I can't take a joke. Honey, who I of course told what happened, asked my sister to repeat exactly what she said about our daughter. My sister refused, and kept calling Decker Charlie's child, and I just was holding back so many tears. I told my sister that I wouldn't be contributing a dime to her wedding expenses, that I won't stop helping her pay her rent up until she moves in with her husband, but I won't be in or pay for the wedding of a person who sees my child as a mistake. Honestly, I was ready to go full-on Jedi and sever that connection, but Honey helped me temper myself. My sister lost it, threw the can of soda water we gave her at me, screamed, "How am I supposed to pay for this?" And I said, "You have over a year, you can save up." So left, showing Honey out of the way in the process, and blew up our sibling group chat. My other siblings are split. Some think I'm overreacting by cutting off funds for the wedding, while others agree that my sister crossed a line and needed the wake-up call. Now, I feel bad for my sister. I do love her and she is distressed by this, but I can't shake the feeling that standing up for my daughter is more important. Update. Next day, Honey and I took Decker out to the local Oktoberfest celebrations. She had a blast, did crafts, danced to music, had beer, it was not beer, in a pint glass, and generally had a great time. On the ride home, my wife broached the long-awaited topic. We asked her how she felt about Grandma's passing, then went into how everyone handles things differently. We asked if Mama, me, or Mommy, Honey, ever was hurtful, and she named a couple of moments we've been snappy or wouldn't let her do things, like a party at 2 a.m. But no, nothing else. We asked about Clara and she got quiet. Honey just looked at me, but I was driving, so I just said, "You can tell us anything, Goober, you know that," and she clammed up. I got my girls home and hugged my heart/Decker and went to the den. About 2 hours later, my wife came downstairs to me and said Decker was in bed but not asleep and I should talk to her. I asked why, and she simply said that Decker is willing to talk about it. I went up. Decker was ready for bed, in her PJs, reading. I just sat down on the side of the bed and asked her how she was. She just said, "Mom told you, huh?" I told her I didn't know anything, and Decker then said that Clara makes her uncomfortable and said hurtful things. When my wife and I weren't around, Clara would call her the lost puppy or the stray, and once Decker remembers her to have told her to her face, "You're not real family, and that once Honey and I get a real child, we will dump her." I can't explain the rage. The absolute, total, and complete red I saw as my daughter broke down, telling me that she behaves so well and is so obsessed with grades so she can prove she is worth loving, worth keeping. After calling my wife, we sat her down and told her that she is the best thing that ever happened to us, and that even if we do have more children, she is our firstborn and our love. I cried and held her, telling her she was my whole heart and that nothing will ever change that. She saved us, and I am so proud of her and us and all we've grown to become. I can't ever stop loving her. Neither can her mom. We love her more than air. That will never change. Then I explained that Auntie was wrong about this. Auntie is jealous of her, jealous of how much we love her. Auntie needs help, but we can't give that help, so she won't be around for a while. Decker asked us to stop talking to her like a child, so I was blunt. She's my sister and I love her. You're my daughter and I love you more. I told her my sister was wrong and hateful. I'm sorry that she didn't feel she could come to her mom or I, but she can, every time, anytime. We will choose her, always. Decker asked me if it's her fault I hate Clara, and I just told her hate is a choice and I don't hate Clara. I do love her, but sometimes loving a person means you correct them. Actions have consequences. My daughter got quiet and handed me her phone, and Clara had been texting her awful things since she left my home. I can't even type them because I want to throw things, but it's when I read my effing sister texting my teenage daughter, "Go tell your so-called mom like a snitch and prove me right." I took a screenshot and texted it to myself. Decker fell asleep around midnight and my wife and I went to bed. I texted my sister the screenshot and said, "You come into my home as my sister and treat my child like this? No. Mom and Dad would be ashamed of you. This is not how you treat any child, let alone your own niece. I have loved you for as long as I can remember. I know you were not raised to treat children so terribly, but as of now, you are not accepted in my home. You will not speak to or contact me, my wife, or my child. I will give you the money for October, Clara, but November on, that's your responsibility. I am no longer going to help. I'm sorry. This breaks my heart, but you crossed a serious and unforgivable line. Decker is my daughter. I am her mom. Do not doubt me here, and I want to be clear. If you ever come sideways at my family again, or contact my daughter at all, I will take legal recourse. From today on, we are in low contact. If you try to make this into a bigger issue, it will be no contact. If you don't understand, here are resources to help spell it out. I love you, D.